Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahushua, Ba'Shem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well, teach well, while learning truth, 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you few sisters out there that are sincere, your children. Shalom. And in today's video, as you can see, is going to be building off the current news that you ultimately have going on. So this is going to be kind of like a World War III news update. And it's basically going to be building off what you have happening. You know, you had Russia, just test launch a new nuclear missile that they ultimately have. And I'm going to actually pull up the article that I got through the Spirit so we can actually just read that first. Then we'll get into the video. But yeah, you basically had Russia just test the missile. And now it's ultimately, making America nervous, man, because ultimately this missile that Russia just created, that ultimately it has unlimited range, you see, and is ultimately capable to, strike America without, ultimately it showing up on their radars and things like that, so this got the U.S. scared, man. And we know ultimately that, these things are happening because we're fastly approaching that day. As it tells us in Malachi chapter 4, verse 1, I'm going to grab that precept real quick. It says, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, right? That's talking about the day that the Lord going to put the spirit on these countries to use these missiles, right? Because that's ultimately why these bombs are in the earth. These bombs are not in the earth just to be sitting in silos, collecting dust, sitting in a museum and all of these other different things that people like to believe in their mind. No, the Lord has these missiles on planet earth and it's time for a reason, because ultimately they're going to be used soon come. It says, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, right? And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, right? And that's the day that when these missiles are going to be launched, you see, which is going to happen. You see, when the Third World War ultimately gets critical and reach the level it's going to get to, these missiles are going to be used, right? As it tells us right here, this is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. It says, for every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, right? That's how the ancient battles were fought back then. They were fought by, shields and bucklers and close quarter combat, right? But it says, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. That's going into the depiction of those missiles, man, because that's what this Third World War is going to be fought with, nuclear weapons, man. You see, that's why these weapons are in the earth, right? As it tells us right here as well, Isaiah 54:16. Behold, I, right, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, have created the smith, which is going into the scientists, the modern day scientists, right, that blow off the coals in the fire. That's the Lord giving them the technology and the capabilities to be able to split the atom in half, ultimately to bring together all of these components and elements to ultimately to build these missiles, man, right? It says, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. Whose work? The Lord's work, because ultimately these are the Lord's weapons, right? It said, and I have created the waster to destroy. And that's exactly what this missile is going to do, man. Real soon, it's going to do what it was created to do, which is to destroy, to bring forward the Lord's judgment. Because, as I just said, these are ultimately the Lord's weapons, right, of his indignation. As it tells us right here, this is Jeremiah 50. Verse 25, it says, the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, have opened his armory. You go into that word armory in the blue letter, it means a magazine of weapons. That's talking about these ICBMs. It says, and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation, meaning his righteous anger. For this is the work of the Lord, power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans, right? So like I said, that day is fastly approaching where these missiles are going to be used. That's why we constantly seeing, these devils test their nuclear arsenal, and America's doing nuclear tests right along with Russia, right along with China. You see, North Korea, all of these different countries are ultimately just testing their nukes and getting them prepared. You see, what does it say in Ezekiel chapter 21? Let me grab that real quick too. And I'm gonna start at verse 8, right, through the Spirit. It says, and again, the word of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, came unto me, saying, verse 9, son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, say a sword is sharpened and also furbished, right? Because the ultimate sword are those missiles. Verse 10, it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. That's exactly what these missiles are going to do. They're going to destroy everything, right? It said, it is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. So like I said, that's exactly why the Lord has these missiles in the earth, because ultimately they're going to be used and they're going to bring forward a lot of destruction, man. Right. It tells us that, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, man. That's going to happen. Right. Real soon. So I'm going to get straight into this article that we got just on what I was talking about basically Russia, test launching their new missile. Then we're going to get into the video. But as you can see, it says, Salakia, It said Russia tests nuclear-powered flying Chernobyl missile super weapon that has unlimited range, claims Putin, right? It says Vladimir Putin claims that Russia has test launched a new nuclear-powered missile dubbed the Flying Chernobyl and has vowed it will be ready for war, right? The Russian president said his menacing 9M730 Berezhnik missile, assigned the code name Skyfall by NATO, was a weapon of unlimited range powered by a nuclear engine. You see, so we hear what it is he just said, man. And like I said, the Lord is the one putting the spirit on these nations to do the things they're doing. Because like I said, we're fastly approaching this day where these weapons are going to be used, man. Right? So we're going to get straight into the video. We're going to listen to what it is they're saying. Right. So before I start the video, I'm going to say fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is for educational purposes only. With that being said, fair use.
Strong remarks from U.S. President Donald Trump calling Russia's missile test inappropriate. The Kremlin has finally broken its silence. Russia says that its latest nuclear-capable missile trial poses no threat to relations with Washington. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says that Moscow remains open to dialogue with the United States. Its actions are firmly guided by its own national interests.
Despite our openness to establishing dialogue with the U.S., Russia is guided by our own national interests. That is how it has been, how it is, and how it will continue to be.
The statement follows Trump's characterization of the missile test as inappropriate, urging Russia to halt such actions and concentrate on bringing the war in Ukraine to an end.
Right. And like the woman just said, and we're going to allow it to play, you see, Nero is trying to bring about peace, man. But we know Yahweh Shem Yahushua is not going to bring peace, man. Because as it tells us right here, I'm going to grab this precept. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, right? And I'm going to start at the top, verse 1, and I'm going to read on down to verse 8, which is ultimately the point. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, right? So everything that ultimately happens in the earth, it all happens at a appointed time that Yahweh Shem Yahushua allows these things to happen in. You see, there's a season for everything, you see. Verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Verse 3, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. Verse 4, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Verse 5, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Verse 6, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Verse 7, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Verse 8, the point, it says a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And that's currently the time and season we're in. We're in a time of war. So that's why you're only going to continue to see the Ukraine conflict, the conflicts over there in the Middle East and everything else worldwide, you see, only continue to escalate, man, because ultimately we're not in a time of peace. That's not what Yahweh Shem Yahushua is bringing, because ultimately this third world war is going to happen. Because it's ultimately a part of prophecy, and Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to bring it forward, man. You see, as it tells us right here, let me grab that. Revelations chapter 9, right? And I'm going to start at verse 12, right? Getting straight to the point. And it says, one woe is past, right? Talking about the first world war. It already took place, right? And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, right? And we know that World War II has already happened. So guess what? World War III is going to happen too, man. Because guess what? It's already, set to happen, you see, through prophecy. So it will take place at the appointed time that Yahweh Shem Yahushua allows these things to happen in. And you see, and ultimately nothing is going to stop that. So no amount of peace deals or treaties that Nero tries to sign or think that him and Russia are going to get on good terms, they're not going to happen, man. Because ultimately the Lord has, wrath coming upon this place, America, man. This place is going to be destroyed by these same missiles that Putin is test launching, man. You see, the Lord is going to put the spirit on these nations ultimately to shoot their missiles over here to America. You see, because this place will be judged, man. You see, and nothing is going to stop that. You see, this devil Trump think he can alter prophecy and all of that, but that's not going to happen, man. You see. And I'm going to grab this precept as well, because like I said, this is the day that's coming, right? This is Second Edges chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 13. It said, for strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows, right, going into those missiles that he shooteth are sharp, right? Hypersonic, supersonic missiles, and shall not miss, right? They're not going to miss. You see, once Yahweh Shimi Abashah put the spirit on these nations, right, which are going to be China, Russia, America's own allies, right? Pakistan, Iran, etc., North Korea, all of these nations are all going to come together in unison, and they're going to shoot their missiles on the land of Israel, where those Amalekites are, and over here to America. But the good majority of them are coming to Babylon. You see, that's prophecy. You see, that's going to happen, right? None going to stop that. It says when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. What is the ends of the world? That's over here in the West, right? In America, right? The Western hemisphere of the world. It says, verse 14, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again, right? Because once they press that button, you see, and those missiles shoot out of those silos and out of those bombers and submarines, you can't return them back. You can't call them back and be like, oh, we want to, put them back in this silo. And no, man, once they shoot out, they're going to do exactly what they were created to do, to destroy, right? It says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. Verse 15, the fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Everything over here is going to melt with fervent heat, as it tells you in 2 Peter 3:10, man, right? That's what's coming. It says, verse 16, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. You see, so like I said, nothing is going to stop the Third World War, right, at all. You see, so the only thing we're going to continue to see happen is things going to continue to spiral more and more out of control, ultimately leading up to these events that are going to happen, right? But we're going to get back into the video.
I think it's an appropriate thing for Putin to be saying, by the way. You ought to get the war ended. A war that should have taken 1 week is now in its soon 4th year. That's what you ought to do instead of testing missiles.
The Borovesnik, a nuclear-powered cruise missile, has been described by Russian President Vladimir Putin as a strategic breakthrough. On Sunday, appearing in military uniform during a meeting with top generals, Putin said the test was successful and signaled that Russia was ready to move toward deploying the weapon. Borovesnik, which translates as Storm Petrel in Russian, is codenamed the SSC-X9 Skyfall by NATO. Putin first unveiled the 9M730 Borovesnik project in 2018, framing it as a countermeasure to Washington's withdrawal from the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty. Moscow has since described the weapon as a counter to U.S. missile defense systems. Last November, Russia officially revised its nuclear...
Right, and you hear what it is that the woman just said, that Russia ultimately designed these missiles for, that they can overpass the U.S. missile defense system, man. You see, so like I said, hey, the Lord is giving these Russians and these other nations this technology for a reason. Because like I said, this place America soon come is going to be destroyed by these same missiles that we're seeing being test launched and that they're preparing, man. You see, the Lord is going to use these things, man. Right, because like I said, the Third World War is going to be a nuclear war, right? Because as it says right here, I'm going to grab this precept. This is Isaiah 24:19. It says, the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean, dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly, right? Verse 20, it said, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. How's that going to happen? Because guess what? You're going to have these missiles being shot from east to west, west to east, all over the four corners of the earth. You're going to be having missiles in the sky. You see, going from country to country, man, because ultimately, even though we know this place America is going to be destroyed, America is going to shoot missiles back as well upon their enemies. So Russia is going to get hit. Oh, it's going to be a lot of shaking going on the earth real soon. It tells you that in the scriptures it's going to be an earthquake like no other, right? But it says the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again, right? That's talking about the rulership, the power structure, you Edomites, right? Because that's ultimately what this Third World War is going to do. It's going to ultimately bring down Esau, Edom's queendom, and it's going to usher in the kingdom of heaven, right? Because after this place is destroyed, guess what? Who's next to rule after that? Jake, right? 2 Esdras 6:9, Esau being the end of the world and Jacob being the beginning of it that followeth. That's what's coming after this Third World War. Not none of you heathens ruling and Russia being in power. No, man. You see, the Israelites are next to rule, starting off with the elect of the nation of Israel. You see, with our Lord Yahweh Shai, King David, the 12, and the 144,000. That's what's coming upon planet Earth after this is all said and done, right? But yeah, that's what these missiles are in the earth for, because ultimately, like I said, we're fastly approaching the day where these things are going to be used. That's why we only going to continue to see the tension between America and Russia to continue to get worse as time progresses, man. You see, they're just going to continue to get more, they're going to get more angry with one another, you see, and ultimately the Lord is doing this because, like I said, for his will to be done, you see, which is to bring about these prophecies, man, you see. So it's going to happen, But I'm going to get back into the video. We're going to watch a little bit more of it, right?
Doctrine significantly lowering the threshold for their potential use. Soon after, Moscow deployed its new nuclear-capable Oreshnik missile on the battlefield in Ukraine. The timing of the Borevsnik test is significant. It coincides with heightened Russian nuclear drills and a pause in diplomatic talks between Moscow and Washington over the war in Ukraine. Relations between Putin and Trump took a new hit after the U.S. imposed surprise sanctions on Russian oil giants and key subsidiaries. Joining us live on the broadcast is retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, a military expert and host of...
All right. But you brothers and sisters basically got a gist of what it's talking about in the video. But yeah, this is what everything is leading up to, man. The use of these weapons, right, is coming fastly, man. You see? So with that being said, Lord's willing, I pray this video be edifying to you brothers and you few sisters out there that may come across it. With that being said, we're going to end the lesson giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of the great millstone that rule well, teach well, while learning the truth 100% according to the Bible. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. Shalom.